Chapter 4. AI, Energy, and Materials as Instruments of Fiscal State Power. How Treasury uses Genesis to reshape the industrial base of the United States. Chapters 1 to 3 explain the regime shift. Monetary power is moving from the Federal Reserve to the U.S. Treasury, and Project Genesis becomes the technological engine that makes this shift irreversible. Chapter 4 now explores the next step. Treasury is not just influencing markets. It is reconstructing the industrial base of the United States using AI, energy dominance, and material science as levers of state power. The core idea is simple. When a government controls capital, Treasury, plus computation, Genesis, plus data, federal datasets, it also controls the trajectory of national growth. Welcome to the Fiscal-AI industrial state. Why AI, energy, and materials are the new pillars of state power. For 40 years, America outsourced industrial capacity under the assumption that monetary policy would smooth business cycles, globalization would keep costs low, and innovation would still happen domestically. That era is over. The new regime is built on 3 pillars. 1. AI, computation equals productivity. 2. Energy, power equals national leverage. 3. Materials, inputs equals industrial sovereignty. This triad determines military advantage, economic growth, supply chain control, inflation stability, geopolitical leverage. These are not optional sectors. These are national survival sectors. Treasury understands this. Genesis operationalizes it. 2. AI is the new productivity engine, and Treasury controls it. For decades, productivity was a black box. Economists argued, theorized, and hand-waved. Genesis changes everything. With unified federal datasets, sovereign AI compute, domain-specific scientific foundation models, autonomous research agents, AI automated manufacturing. The U.S. government can manufacture productivity on demand. This transforms macroeconomics. Productivity is no longer a residual variable. It becomes a policy variable. Treasury now funds AI infrastructure, compute clusters, AI-augmented scientific discovery, industrial AI deployment, sovereign training environments, federally integrated AI models for energy, materials, biology, defense. The Federal Reserve cannot influence AI. Treasury can. This is why Besant's thesis becomes self-fulfilling. The institution that can direct the productivity engine becomes the true center of macro power. And that institution is no longer the FED. Third, energy dominance, the foundation of the Treasury-led regime. Energy is not just a commodity. It is the real economy's base layer. Genesis targets energy across nuclear fission, nuclear fusion, grid optimization, materials for advanced batteries, AI-driven resource mapping, autonomous reactor simulations, high-efficiency photovoltaics, AI-directed hydrocarbon extraction, national grid resilience. The goal is simple. U.S. energy dominance equals global strategic dominance. For the Treasury, this matters because energy independence stabilizes inflation. Domestic supply reduces geopolitical vulnerability. Energy abundance lowers manufacturing costs. Fusion research generates multi-decade investment flows. Energy breakthroughs support a strong dollar. Massive energy projects justify large fiscal deficits. And Genesis compresses the timeline. What once took 20 years of trial and error can be done in months. The Treasury now funds energy like a venture capitalist with infinite capital. 4. Materials, science, the hidden weapon. Materials are the invisible backbone of modern civilization, semiconductors. Batteries, superconductors, alloys, magnets, catalysts, composites, pharmaceuticals, defense-grade components. Every major future technology depends on new materials. Genesis allows AI-driven materials discovery, robotic synthesis, automated experimentation, high-throughput testing, physics-based simulations at scale, generative design models for novel materials, rapid iteration cycles. This is not incremental. This is the birth of autonomous materials innovation, and it happens under Treasury-backed programs. This places the U.S. 10 to 20 years ahead of global competitors. It also guarantees permanent fiscal spending, permanent capital flows, permanent Treasury-driven industrial growth. It is the perfect macro engine. VAI plus energy plus materials equals a fiscal liquidity gravity. Well, markets will not be led by consumer sentiment, GDP prints, CPI expectations, traditional earnings cycles. They will be led by fiscal flows into strategic sectors that Treasury plus Genesis identify as essential. When Treasury funds AI models, semiconductors, fusion, materials, manufacturing automation, national labs, energy infrastructure, then liquidity gravitates into those sectors for years. These become structural bull markets, not cyclical ones. This is why the Fed cannot override the Treasury. Higher rates can't stop Genesis funding. QT cannot suppress industrial missions. Inflation becomes a political narrative tool. National security trumps monetary orthodoxy. The markets that matter are the ones Treasury fuels. 6. The new industrial strategy of the United States. This is the blueprint now in motion. 1. Identify strategic domains, AI, energy, materials, semiconductors. 2. Use Genesis to accelerate breakthroughs. 3. Deploy Treasury capital to scale production. 4. Pull private capital into aligned sectors. 5. Use tariffs and fiscal incentives to protect domestic supply chains. 6. Justify deficits through national security and industrial renewal. This model mirrors the World War II mobilization, the Cold War industrial race, the Apollo program, the Reagan defense build-out, the early Internet DARPA ecosystem, except now it includes AI-driven acceleration loops. This is the next version of the American state. 7. Why this overpowers monetary policy forever. The Federal Reserve controls the rates, reserve requirements, asset purchases, emergency facilities. But the Treasury plus Genesis controls energy production, industrial capacity, technological leadership, capital flows, national security, supply chains, the productivity engine, the innovation curve, the fiscal spigot. Monetary policy becomes a support function. Fiscal-AI industrialism becomes the macro driver. This is the permanent shift. 8. Markets in the Fiscal-AI industrial state. Investing changes fundamentally. The most important factor is no longer monetary tightening or easing. It is Treasury-backed industrial strategy. The winning sectors will be those plugged directly into Genesis-driven acceleration, sovereign AI compute. Semiconductors, energy systems, fission plus fusion, materials science, defense industrial base, advanced manufacturing, biotech plus synthetic biology. These are not themes. These are policy-mandated asset classes. Ignore them at your own risk. Chapter 9, Summary. AI, energy, and materials become the foundation of state power. Genesis gives the government an AI engine to accelerate scientific discovery. Treasury uses Genesis outputs to guide massive fiscal flows. Fiscal spending becomes structural and strategic. Markets align with national industrial priorities. Productivity becomes programmable. The Fed becomes subordinate to fiscal mission needs. This is not industrial policy. This is a new macro operating system.